All right, serious question. Do you feel like everything costs more and your paycheck buys less? It's it's not an accident. It's policy. It's tariffs. You are the one who's paying those tariffs. It's not the foreign governments that's paying those tariffs. Tariffs are an unseen tax that is just taking money right out of your wallet. Whether you see it or not, prices of everything, you see that, right? Prices of everything are increasing. Why is that? Because the tariffs are being passed down to you. And it's not by accident. It's just, we'll get into it a little more, in this video, but I am a small business owner, and some of my raw materials do come from overseas. It certainly affects me because I had to raise those prices. My margins aren't to where I can just absorb those tariffs, and I'll explain more how that works in a minute. But let's listen to what she has to say.
Yes, you heard that correctly. Trump's Solicitor General just said to the United States Supreme Court that there is no evidence in the record that tariffs are being paid for by the American people. He just said those tariffs are being paid for by foreign countries and foreign importers.
That's that's okay. Look, I'll say it. I voted for Trump. Yes, MAGA, make America great again. But that's an absolute damn lie. It's not the foreign governments paying that. Again, my raw materials have to come to me so that I can build my final product. But at the port, that product, after it clears customs, the tariff is implied, and I have to pay that before I can receive my product. I'm the one who has to pay that. Okay? And like I said, my margins are low, so I have to increase the price of my product. So if you need to buy my product, and this isn't a want, the things that I build and I sell keep your equipment, your heavy equipment going. People need this. Their livelihoods depend on my products. And I have to raise that price, which means you, the end user, has to pay more because of those tariffs. China ain't paying it. No, you are.
That's, of course, not what the Federal Reserve says, but whether you're feeling the impacts of tariffs in your own pocketbook is something that you can decide for yourself. One last piece of this case before we wrap it up that you have to understand. If the Supreme Court decides that Trump's sweeping reciprocal tariffs are unconstitutional, which the lower courts have already found, they said that the Trump administration would have to issue tariff refunds to everyone who has paid them.
Yeah, that'll be the day. That'll be the day. Now, she's going more into this, and number one, that's not going to happen. Okay, they are not going to pay me back for the tariffs that have already been paid for. Right? I've already paid those tariffs. They're not giving me a check back. No, they're going to do some damn. They're going to just give out free money again. That's probably what they'll end up doing. I don't think they're going to give it to the American people. They did give it to the military, which is great, but that's money that I had to pay to give to the military. And the military's got great insurance. I lost my insurance. That's a whole nother story.
Less than an hour after Trump announced the 25% tariffs on both Mexican and Canadian goods starting tomorrow, our stock market is now in free fall, with the Dow Jones plummeting over 800 points. When Trump said he was going to make America great again, apparently he actually meant to say he was going to crash the American economy, because that is what is unfolding in front of us in real time.
It really is. I mean, I hate to say it, and I keep telling myself that there are things behind the scenes that are going to get ugly. Like, there has to be more pain before things can get better. The problem is there was no plan of action before inflicting this pain on you, me, the American people, right? There was no plan. There was no safety net, or okay, we're going to increase, we're going to add, or we're going to add these tariffs on these products and not these products, or vice versa. Now they're hitting Canada, Mexico. These products that we're getting, it's not going to just magically start being manufactured in the United States. That's not the way it works. We don't have the capability, the factories in place. We don't have the stuff in place to manufacture these raw materials that many of us business owners get in order to build our final product. So how's that going to happen? There's no other choice. So my argument is maybe some of the stuff, the raw materials and things like that, maybe those shouldn't be tariffed or given more time to find an alternative, right? An alternate source. But there are no alternate sources. Everyone thinks tariffs are China. No, tariffs are everywhere. Just like she said, Canada, Mexico, Germany. It's everywhere that the majority of our products come from. Yeah, there's a lot of countries that the tariffs aren't nearly as high, and I understand they're reciprocal, right? If they're doing it to us, then we need to be doing it to them. I understand that. I get it. But the problem is there was no action plan in place to help us figure this out, to be able to make, to find other sources or ways to manufacture these products.
It always starts with a lie dressed in a slogan. America first, they said, while quietly chiseling away at the foundation that made America strong in the first place, global trust. And now, here we are, we find ourselves at the precipice of an economic unraveling, staring down the long barrel of fiscal delusion dressed up as patriotic fervor. And at the heart of it all, the thing threatening to undo not just a presidency, but a generation of economic stability is a lawsuit about tariffs. Yes, tariffs. The blunt instrument wielded by a man who sees economics like he sees everything else, a zero-sum game where someone has to lose for him to win. The U.S. Court of International Trade ruled that Trump's latest round of tariffs, slapped like bumper stickers on goods from every corner of the world, were illegal. A gross overreach, a bastardization of emergency powers meant for war or catastrophe. Not a vanity project wrapped in red, white, and grievance, but before the ink could even dry on that ruling, the administration's lawyers ran, panting, to the appeals court with a promise. If these tariffs are found to be illegal, they'd refund every last cent to the American companies now being crushed under their weight. The court granted a stay, delaying justice like a warden handing out cigarettes before a firing squad. The appeals process...
All right, I think you get the point. Yes, American companies are getting crushed. Companies are literally going out of business due to these tariffs. Small businesses that employ the majority of Americans. And the problem is, it's not just the small companies. This is creeping up into some of the major companies, and we'll see that here in a minute. Now, like I said, my business, a small portion of it does rely on those imports. That's not the main part of our business. If I just cut off all those imports, would my company survive? That's a tough question. I thought I was prepared to answer that, but I am not. But there's millions of small businesses that rely on imports. And okay, well, why aren't we seeing it? You are seeing it. The prices of everything is going up. I see it every day. I went to buy a pair of jeans the other day, and I could see that it had a sticker over the label, that they had the original price of the pants, and it looked like a sale sticker, a big orange sticker. And okay, wow, man, these might be on sale. I don't know. They were still expensive. And I purchased the jeans and whatever, and I wanted to see what was under that label, so I peeled it off, and the original tag, had a price on it. Well, they increased that price probably 20%, if I'm doing my math right. I don't want to say how much I paid for these damn jeans, but the price went up 20%. The sticker they put over the original label was 20%. Because they're preparing for the tariffs that they're going to have to pay. Now, I know tariffs is a last year conversation, but it's not, because they're just now starting to affect you. When tariffs were announced, everybody rushed to get as much material and raw goods in and product that they possibly could before the tariffs, trying to beat it. Well, now that inventory is starting to shrink down, and we're starting to have to place new orders to keep up with demand. And now we're paying those tariffs on these products, and now you're starting to see it. everything from the food you eat to the clothes you wear to the cars you drive, everything is being affected by tariffs.
I don't know if you've heard, but here's what's happening with bankruptcies inside the U.S. in 2025. In 2025, at least 717 companies filed for bankruptcy. That's the highest number of companies to do so since 2010, and that's a major increase compared to last year alone. Economists and business leaders point to a mix of pressures driving this, including inflation and higher interest rates, supply chains, and you guessed it, Trump-era tariffs on imported goods that have raised the cost for manufacturers and import-dependent businesses. Many companies have said that higher tariffs, especially on steel, auto, solar materials, and other components, squeezed the margins and disrupted planning, forcing them into financial trouble. This doesn't mean that tariffs are the only cause, but tariffs are widely cited by analysts as a significant factor in stress that is facing companies right now.
That's what we just said. These companies who sold their product at a lower price now has to pay the tariffs before they can get more inventory. And that inventory doesn't sell right away. I mean, how many months of inventory do they buy at a time? 2, 3 months? And they have to pay those tariffs up front. And then they pass that tariff down to you. And then slowly, as you buy that product, they can recoup that money, right? You are the one who's paying that tariff, but the business owner has to pay that up front. Okay, so that's a stress on us. And a lot of these small companies that have very low margins can't afford to come up with the additional money because the banks sure as hell ain't loaning money right now to small businesses. And if they do, it takes an act of God. It is very difficult. Trust me, it's very difficult, even with great credit, to get a business loan right now, because even the banks know what's going on, right? So yeah, companies are they're throwing their hands up. People are done. People are tired. Make America great again while we're out trying to solve the world's problems. Israel, Venezuela, China, Russia, Ukraine. How many just billions and billions of dollars are we sending to these other countries? I don't know. And what are we arguing about? What are we going to do? If just they send that money overseas, it's not like they're going to send us a check. Even if the money didn't go overseas, it's not coming back to us. It's not coming back to us business owners. No, you know what we get? We get letters in the mail from the IRS about being late on our taxes, or you owe more taxes, or property taxes going up. That's what we get, the business owner, the hardworking guys like you and me. No, we get all the stress and the pain. We're the ones who are held responsible, accountable for what we do. I mean, they're seizing people's bank accounts with less than $500 in them because they didn't file their taxes. The poor people, the people who don't have the money to pay taxes when they owe at the end of the year. The IRS is seizing their bank accounts. Yeah, there was a story I just read. The guy had less than $500 in his account. They seized his. That's just being petty, right? Is that not just being petty? Yeah, but do they ever get held accountable? What about this Somalia crap going on in Minnesota? Do you think anybody will be held accountable for that? No. There's going to be some unknown person, Abu Dhabi, Jami, whatever, that nobody's ever heard of. He's going to be the scapegoat, and maybe someone will do a little jail time or get deported, maybe, I don't know. But anybody in power, that's the problem. Politicians need to be held accountable. Politicians need to go to jail. That's why there's no trust in the government anymore. Because there's no accountability. There's professional politicians. 101 is plausible deniability. That's it. That's the first thing. That's it. If you're a politician, that's the first thing you learn. Plausible deniability. I'm getting too far off track here.
So, Trump supporters, if you're not worried now about the economy, now is the time to be worried. Nebraska, Tyson Foods. They're the largest meat producer in the country. They're closing their Nebraska beef processing plant because of Trump economics. Cattle costs have risen $2 billion because of Trump's tariffs, and it has resulted in a net loss of $425 million in 2025 to date for Tyson Foods. So they're closing their meat packing plant, and 3,200 employees in this small town with only 11,000 residents are losing their jobs. 3,200 employees, and I can guarantee a vast majority voted for this. And it doesn't end there. Tyson is taking their 3-shift slaughter operation in Texas down to 1 shift. So a lot more people at their Texas facility are going to be let go.
That's what I was just talking about. The beef and poultry industries, they're in serious trouble here in the United States. I mean, these small rancher, beef cattle, that's a whole conspiracy within itself, right? I mean, all these small cattle ranchers, they're just being priced out of the market. While the price of meat is going up, the cost to the people who are raising the cattle is not. They are not seeing more money as everything else around them increases. Feed, property taxes, their tractors, their equipment, everything that they have to buy to repair that, tires, oil, everything is going up. But what they're actually able to recoup per head of cattle is not increasing, but the price of beef is increasing. And this has a lot to do with what she's saying is, I mean, for example, I went to the grocery store the other day, and I keep bringing this up because I was just blown away, because I don't always do the shopping, but before Christmas, I just want to grab a couple extra steaks that we could have to eat, and went in and to the grocery store, and 2 New York strips, which I usually buy. I like strips. $28 for 2 steak. I couldn't do it. It's not that I couldn't afford it. It just didn't make sense to me to buy 2. It wasn't the best cut of meat to buy 2 steaks for $28. So I opted just not to buy them at all. And unfortunately, there's a lot more of that going on.
Tariffs inflationary.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Who pays for tariffs? Not the company that you are tariffing. So let's use the favorite example. China exports stuff to us and then we tariff them, right? We, as an importer of Chinese goods, pay for the tariffs, not China. I think that's what the most important fact that people need to understand is that the company exporting the product does not pay for the tariff. How it works is this. They put stuff on a boat. It arrives here. When the company that imports it and distributes and sells it, let's say Costco, whatever, the distributor, goes to the port and takes it, they pay for the tariff there.
At the port.
At the port, yeah. It's not clear, when you clear customs.
Okay.
It's collected there. And basically what happens is when the product reaches the shelves, it's more expensive now. So what would
So there's more cost to get
it's
it
like
here.
I did that example before, right? Okay, you buy a T-shirt for $10 without tariffs, right? And you sell it here for 12, right? Mm-hmm. When you tariff China $2 on that, then it's going to cost you $12 to get here. You're not going to sell it at zero profit. You're going to have to bump the price up.
I know, but everyone says in the comments that believe this whole tariff thing, then we should be buying American-made T-shirts.
Yeah, okay.
And we grow cotton here anyway.
That's a fallacious argument, though.
He's right. That's a fallacious argument because it's not possible to buy this stuff in the U.S. right now. And he goes on talking about, what have we done with all of our cotton farms? We're not growing cotton like we were, and we don't have the cotton manufacturing facilities and the gins and everything to manufacture those T-shirts in the U.S. Okay. Even with tariffs, it's still a $12 shirt. Now it's going up to $14, whatever the case may be. Now make that same shirt in America with products, raw materials grown, processed, manufactured in the United States. That's going to be a very expensive t-shirt. Then who's going to be able to afford t-shirts, right? Because our cost of living is going up, and that would be the price of t-shirts along with everything else, but our pay's not going up. That's everything. So that's exactly to my point there. Now let me give you a couple examples as a small business owner what I'm facing. And just the other day, I had to order some specific valves for a machine, and the machine was manufactured in Germany. Years and years ago. We don't manufacture this machine in the United States. They don't exist in the United States. It had to come from Germany. But the valves on it are proprietary to that piece of equipment. Okay, so I have to get them from Germany. Now the valves, I had to get 2 valves, $3,000 a piece. So $6,000 total, but the tariff charge was $1,000. I swear to you, just like he said, that it's not the foreign countries paying those tariffs. If I want those valves, I pay up front the tariffs, or when it reaches port and it clears customs, at that time, I pay the tariff. Or the importer who is bringing that product in has to pay the tariff, and they're charging me for it. It's called a tariff charge. Look at half the stuff you're buying. Even heavy equipment. I'm in the heavy equipment industry, right? And right now we're trying to buy equipment. They call it pre-tariff equipment, right? The machines that we specialize in here are actually built in the United States, but a lot of the components come from overseas because we don't have the raw materials to manufacture those products here. So those are post-tariff machines, and the prices are 15 to 20% higher. Just like that, overnight. The pre-tariff machines, they're running out here in 2025. We're in December 2025. Next year is just all going to be tariff machines. It's just a magic 20% added hidden tax. That's exactly what it is. It's a hidden tax that you, the end user, has to pay. And I'm sorry if I feel like I'm upset about this, but it's not just heavy equipment and everything. It's just everything. It's the damn steaks. It's the t-shirts. It's the cars you buy. It's everything. There's a hidden tariff charge inside of that you're paying. But your salary isn't going up, is it? Not as much, not as fast as everything else is going up. And another example, going back to that, is part of the heavy equipment business, and this is a great example, is we have big rubber tracks that go on the machine, right? And the tariffs on these tracks are astronomical. Okay, we'll build them in America. There is not an American manufacturer who makes rubber tracks in the United States. Why? Because the EPA regulations are so stringent that we cannot manufacture, vulcanize the rubber and the steel and the components in these tracks. We cannot manufacture them in the United States due to EPA regulations. So we have to get them from overseas because all our equipment now, rubber track machines, are so popular that we don't have any other choice but to get the tracks from overseas. And there's multiple tariffs on it. There's tariffs on the steel because inside those steel tracks, or inside the rubber tracks, are steel belts and cleats and everything else. And then the rubber and the manufacturer, then you pay the manufacturing tariffs. And then if you want to get that product from overseas, from China, let's say it comes from China, Taiwan, wherever they're manufactured, to the United States, and it doesn't come on a U.S. ship, then there's an additional tariff. Yeah, the price of tracks have gone up 50% in less than a year. When we used to pay $700, $800, now we're paying $1,300, $1,400 per track. No, I'm not paying it. The customer, the end user, the guy who owns that tractor, the guy who's digging your basements, the guy who's digging your septic tanks, the guy who's building your houses. Those are the guys who have to pay that final fee. Okay, now the cost of maintaining their equipment's gone up. Who's going to pay for that? You. He's building your house. He's going to roll that price right into the cost of that house. Why is your house so expensive? Because of all the damn raw materials. Everything else for every contractor is going up. All right, enough about that. What are we going to do about it? I don't know. But let me know. What if you had an extra $500 or $1,000 a month to your name. Would you use it for something good? Would you be paying off bills? Would you invest it? What would you do if you had an additional $500 to $1,000 a month? How are we going to make that possible within this channel? I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. We are not here just to complain. We are here to try to make things better, to figure out a way around this. But we have to figure out what the root cause of the problem is first, and then we'll get into that. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful, blessed day.